think we're live. Hello, hello. I think we're good. It's been a while. A lot has happened. A lot of change, actually. I think the past like 2 months or something since the last time I streamed, I've probably rewritten almost everything? Besides like AI and shit. But I've just been moving everything around into places that it best fit, like suits what it's supposed to be doing. And the line of communication for things as well. Yo, what's up, man? Long time no see, so to speak. Like, it's been a while. I'm 12 now. Damn, 12 years, huh? A long time. I think the biggest changes for the code base, we pretty much moved everything over to interfaces at this point. This folder probably had maybe 1 or 2 interfaces. Yes, the project is okay now, finally. I meant to actually message you before I started the stream that last night, or like before I went to bed, I finally got it all to compile after like the whole thing happened with the computer. And just for reference, I had a water cooler that shit the bed on me, and it was like an MSI, forget the model number, but it was an MSI water cooler, and this right here is the inside of the actual like water block itself. And this sediment here is not supposed to be there. All of this like grain almost, that's just inside these fins, because these are very tiny fins where water like goes through to pull the heat from the copper plate here. This was blocking the water from actually going through, and it killed the pump. So whatever they did to manufacture this shit, they fucked up. And the best part is, and this is the joke, they don't cover this under warranty. Hello, Angry Fallen, how are you? So I can't get my money back, even though like they sold me a water cooler that within a year and a half, mind you, died because of this. So, fuck MSI. Also fuck Asus, but that's a side thing. What else did we change? So moved everything to interfaces, moved all the data over as well. I also changed up the level for multiplayer access and everything. Mike, have I watched Inside Out 2 or 1 or both or none? I think I've watched both of them. Yeah, they should compensate. Dude, they should have a class action lawsuit against them or something. That is crazy, because it's not just me. They've dicked over so many people with that. It's insane. Yeah, I installed a new one and everything, so we got that whole situation taken care of, thank God. One of the things, though, that we did was revamp how you actually select like classes and everything. So now what you actually have is an actual class selection window that comes up, and this is completely dynamic. You can actually set the amount of classes that you want to play within the game mode. So I could do 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 20 if I wanted. It just gets a little tedious when you get to that point. So you pick your classes, ready up, start the game. I didn't enable seamless travel. Fuck me. Hold on, let me just speed run that. What's my opinion on the movies? Is Inside Out the movie with like the emotions and everything? It's a Pixar movie, isn't it? Yeah, I spent like an extra $50 on this water cooler, so hopefully it's actually decent for what it's doing. We'll see though. If this one craps out on me, I'm just going back to standard fans. Like, at least I know, like, if the fan's going, I can hear the bearing. Yeah, so you're able to pick your classes. I changed up how you actually cast abilities as well. So the way you switch between classes now is use your mouse wheel and you just scroll, and it'll change what class you currently have selected, and then you can use hotkeys to actually select the abilities. I probably just crashed my game somehow because I also moved over a ton of data. Yeah, I moved over my team selection last night. So it was trying to see what team the ground was, which is pretty funny. It's one about emotions by Pixar. Yeah, I saw both of them. I thought the first one was better than the second, in my opinion. Alright, so when we're actually checking for teams, we got to make sure that we're not trying to apply this to the ground. That would probably be the first step. So if we go into our overlap, we can stop that from happening. This is all part of the process. My actual game wasn't compiling for the past couple days because I lost a large part of data, and I was able to recover it, but some of the files weren't complete from my computer crashing. And of course, I didn't upload the latest thing to Git, so I didn't have the latest build because I obviously didn't expect it to crash. So I spent the past couple days just trying to get everything repaired and back up to operational, and today is actually the first day that I'm pretty much at that point now. So there are a couple of bugs, probably from that whole thing, that I need to sort out. The second one's relatability is unmatched. Yeah, the relatability, I think it's also like kind of like a recency bias thing. Like, I just saw the second one not that long ago, so I can like remember more of it. So I think what you're saying is probably true. There's like more emotions involved, so it only makes sense. Yeah, so this was looking for, I'm assuming, other actors, what this is saying here. Yeah, on begin overlap 191. Or what could be the case is it's detecting owner as null, but I highly doubt that. It shouldn't be null at all. Line 46. Yeah, so it's about the target. Oh wow, I'm trying to access it without checking if it's even valid or not. Should probably also check source agent as well. Yeah, that should stop that from happening. Now to like really stop this, I can probably get rid of the ground for our overlap entirely. We can just filter that out so it doesn't pull in that data. It's probably a better way to do it. One thing that I haven't really touched too much is the actual spells themselves. I really want to move like a lot of this shit off. Like, you can see how many parameters we have here, and this is kind of disgusting. I kind of reduced it a little bit, but what I really want to do is get everything moved over to data tables, and then we just have one variable here that sets all of the data we need onto the base spell when it's created. And I also want to implement object pooling as well. But before I do the object pooling, I have to create that data type. So it's all about layering in. I think I already started making the data table for this. Yeah, right here. So we just have to make this spell context data onto our abilities. And then just copy it all over to a data table so we don't have to open up blueprints ever again. I rewatched the one. Oh, you rewatched one, then watched the second one for the first time. There's no decency bias if you watch both at the same time. Oh, true. Yeah, you're not wrong. You probably have the most accurate opinion on it then. What else did I add? I added in a complete status effect system. I think the last time that we were doing all this, we moved it onto gameplay cues to try to implement it within gas, but it was... Dude, the performance cost of doing that was like 4 times higher than just making your own, so... I just got rid of it. It was not working. Especially for the scalability, because we're gonna have buffs, debuffs, all of that shit in the game. We need something that is a lot faster. So what I did was I looked into this right here, this fast array serializer, and what this allows you to do is basically create a really efficient array that's replicated on all clients and multiplayer. And you can just set up some custom parameters here, or variables, I mean. And what it will do is when there is a new item that's added to this array, or one's modified, it doesn't have to re-replicate the whole array. It actually only replicates the modified or added item. So it just makes it a lot more efficient when you have like 100 different status effects going at once. Because of that. So all this is doing is using these 2 delegates here on the item itself, and these are sending out broadcasts to all of the UI elements that are attached to it in our ability system component. So it makes it really easy to kind of bind into it and then have anything listen to it that needs to you know, listen for it. What I want to do is test out that map again. Enable seamless travel here. Oh, I think another thing that I got up and running is our attribute system. I can show that in a second. When you don't actually modify any attributes, the game will detect that you don't have anything touched, so it'll just default to an even split on the attributes that are given to the player. I think I can show you how that works as well. I'm really just trying to think of like everything that was really changed, because there's been like so much shit that I've done over. I do want to show you how the status effects work though. Oof. So with status effects, it actually puts this little timer above the player's head right there. This works with pretty much everything. What it will do is when it creates a status effect icon above the player, it actually won't destroy itself afterwards. What will happen is the system will detect that this attribute was already in the list and it was reapplied again. So it collapses the actual icon when it's complete, and then when it's reapplied again, it will just bring it back up. So it saves on performance a little bit there. Is that a Flyers fan? Yeah. Actually, I'm a Flyers hater, but you gotta keep your enemies close. Oh, I just found another bug. Oh, the joy. Round end isn't getting taken off at round start. You gotta be a Lightning fan? Oh no, I'm not into that. Sounds terrible. Why Lightning in particular, though? I believe our game mode actually dictates the application of round end. Excuse me. Actually, it should be round prep. Oh, it looks like this actually didn't get... This actually didn't get saved either from the crash. Or my computer crash, because I remember adding in and changing this up on how functions were listed here, or what was actually being called. I'm actually glad I showed you guys how this worked, because there's actually a couple things missing. It makes sense why that wasn't being removed. Might have to jump into that part later, huh? Yeah, because before I was using gameplay tags, right? To dictate how the like round end, round start, round prep, and like all those like gameplay effects were being applied, but we changed this and I got rid of these comments before, but they're here now, which means that this is probably a CPP file from 15 or 20 days ago. Oh, shit. I wish I remembered the exact ordering I had this in. Or around preparation. This is where it actually should be. Yeah, so we want to remove the round end gameplay effect off the character, and then we apply the round preparation one. I'm surprised this isn't getting called elsewhere. Yeah, we're missing a lot of data. Jumping through and finding bugs like that, and then seeing like the comments of like old shit that should have been like removed, and then realizing that it was a prior CPP file that wasn't recovered all the way. Pretty annoying, but you live and learn. I'm doing daily backups now, so I don't lose that much information if my computer ever craps on me again. We actually didn't modify the header file there, so should be able to just live code in and test this out real quick. So many things to account for. Okay, let's jump down with this guy here. So round cleanup happens. Now what should happen is when we spawn in, we should be able to move. Oh shit, that's another thing. Uh-oh. Movement speed is set to 0. So that could mean a couple different things. That means the gameplay effect more than likely is not set up properly. Am I doing an override or an add? That would probably do it. Weird. the gameplay effect, when it's removed with an override, it should actually go back to the base amount of that attribute, no? Thought I tested that before. But I could just be mixing two things up. Well, I'll worry about that later. That's not crazy important right now. Probably just a simple fix. What I do want to show off is the other things that I was working on. So we now have healing and damage tracking as well within the game. So I actually don't know if it updates in the test mode, but I have basically something that grabs all the damage that a player is doing, doesn't replicate it immediately, but I think I have it set onto a timer of every 3 or 5 seconds or something. It will update the player's current damage, and at round end it will also update the damage as well. So the scoreboard is working pretty well there. What else? What else? Oh yeah, attributes. So this was fun. Attributes, I went a little bit more in depth with how they work and how scaling works and everything, and I moved pretty much everything over to data tables. Well, not data tables, curve tables is what I meant. So you have like your base attributes here, and then inside of these, what you essentially do is, or the way I have it set up, is I will have the secondary attribute that the primary one actually modifies, and then you can set the scaling based on a graph like this. So if we go into this guy here, I have it set up to pretty much display like the attributes, and when you put like a point into a primary attribute, I have the secondaries down here, and it gives you the calculation for what you're getting when you invest into these attributes. So you can see like max health, max mana, pretty much, damage mitigation as well, everything like that. The scaling right now is completely fucking busted. Just because I quickly like made them. I didn't really test like anything too heavily in terms of balancing. So there's some really janky stuff where you could just go total glass cannon and go like 100% crit chance and then just like all crit multiplier for additional damage. And you could like die in 3 hits, but you will kill somebody in pretty much like 1 hit. So it gets really crazy. And right now I think I have it set to where you get 50 attribute points that you can spend, and you can just like reset it if you want to change up the build. The next thing that I'm going to be working on is the class tree skill system for attributes. It's basically going to be like a mastery tree, almost. Kind of like how WoW had it, where you can actually improve certain abilities within a class by spending like talent points on them. So I have an idea on how I'm going to be setting that up. We had like a first iteration build of that before with like the stones and everything, but we had to get rid of that. I still have the actual setup here underneath the ground, but with how the current system works, you're selecting your class within the loadout section before you get into a match. And this version of it had you hard locked at 3 classes only, which was pretty bad. So the way I'm going to do it now is move it all over to the loadout system that we made and make it so you can actually select your talents within there. I will probably bring this back and just have it be 1 stone in the middle, to where you focus on one class specifically, so you can preemptively set up your talent points and just basically bring that loadout in, and then you can have like different versions of like a class. So for instance, like if you had like a druid class and you wanted to have like 3 different builds in terms of like talent point setup, you could just have different loadouts that you'd be able to select. And luckily, data wise, it's really easy to store that information, and it's super fast just to replicate it over into the loadout section. So not set in stone, pun intended, on that system, but that's what I'm thinking in terms of a solution that kind of meets in the middle for that. But again, we'll see. What else? What else? Gosh. I mean, it's been like 60 days. It's so hard to think of like everything that was done. I didn't make any new maps or anything like that. Abilities didn't really change too much on that end. I think a majority of the time is spent redoing the systems and making everything a lot faster and a lot more modulated, so we're able to easily swap stuff in and out. I think one of the biggest changes actually in terms of like modulation is how I pretty much turned the character class into a skeleton, and I'll show you what I mean. If you notice, excuse me, if you notice here, like we have like our equipment, like skeletal mesh components, everything like that, but we're not actually constructing any of our like spell casting components, anything like that, on the character itself. I actually moved all of that over and turned every single actor component into a blueprint right here. And the idea of it is we can use this character class to pretty much just like copy and paste it into any like instance like this, and we're able to actually just assign on the fly what components we want this character to actually have. So if I go to components here, there's an array of components to add, and if I wanted to add a new component here, let's say if I wanted like an interaction component or something, I would just add it to this list and it would build onto the character. So in the future, this is going to be really handy because we're going to be making a lot more actor components for certain things. And instead of rewriting my whole character, adding in like all this shit, I just add a component here and it's done. So that was pretty big. What else? Oh yeah, I decreased the size of my packaged build by like over 50%. Quick tip for performance. Textures, massive. They take up so much space. I was actually blown away by how much of the packaged build of my game was just from textures alone. So there's like a quick like little trick that you can do without losing too much performance or quality, and that is you take your normal maps, you reduce the resolution to, I think it's like 1024 by 1024, and then you take your roughness maps, and you reduce those down to 512 by 512 resolution. And I can kind of show you what I mean here if I can get to my material. So let's just go to this texture, for instance, right? We'll just go to this one. Where is my... There's like a minimum texture size that you can set onto these. I think it's called. Or yeah, maximum texture size, right? And just cutting down all the textures down to like a certain size, like for instance this one would be like 512, I significantly reduce the amount that the package build takes up in terms of space. This also increased performance of the game by an ass load just by doing this. But yeah, you would basically reduce like normals down to a maximum size of 1024. Your roughness maps would be reduced down to 512. And then these guys here, just like your regular texture samples, would be reduced down to I think like 2048. And then for characters, you would like put it down to just 4K textures. And you barely notice any loss of quality whatsoever, if any at all. But yeah, my game went from like 2.6 gigs down to like 1.2 gigs. And I increased my frame rate by at least like 20 or 30 frames. You're excited as crap. Happy for you, bud. What else? What else? I'm just trying to share like everything that I've learned over the past couple months with you guys as fast as I can. Just to kind of use this as like a resource on how to save some FPS. Want to see snow in under 6 months? What is snow? Oh, is that that's a new Pixar movie, isn't it? About like the abominable snowman or something? I think everything was pretty much just like move everything to data tables and reduce texture sizing, and then change like pretty much everything to interfaces. Right now I'm in the process, or like last night I was in the process of moving a lot of data, like global data, over to the game state itself. So this will essentially reduce the amount of copies of data in the game as well during runtime. If we have like one single data table that's being loaded into the game that everybody needs to access, putting it onto the game state isn't a terrible idea, because now you're making it so not every single character has to make a copy of this themselves. They all just pretty much share the same copy, and all you got to do is just make sure it's like a const reference of the data that you're loading into the game. So this will stop like the exponential growth of just making T arrays on like player states for this kind of like data. You just put it onto the game state. I was thinking about making a video on like data storage and optimization of where you would actually want to store data in a game, and give an idea of like, oh, okay, you're using this type of data, it's going to be used in this way, where do you put it? And I would just give you either player controller, the actor HUD, player state, or like the character itself. Good rule of thumb is usually the character is not where you want to store anything, if you can avoid it. The character should be used as kind of like a pylon or like a conduit. You don't want to directly store information on it, but you want to use it as something where you can pull information from, if that makes sense. There's only like a couple things that I'm really doing on the character, and I think the biggest thing is like their death animation. I'm essentially just swapping out the material that's on the character itself and just having it like decay over time or something when they die. But beyond that, it's very, very limited on what the character's actually doing. Yeah, what's up? What else? Function libraries. This is another thing that I just went like bananas on over the past couple months too. I moved a lot of stuff over to function libraries when I started doing like interfaces. So this makes it pretty easy to make your game very modular, because you don't actually have to do like a direct cast like we were doing before. Like we would cast to like this specific like player state type, and we knew that it had like this function. With interfaces and static libraries, you can actually just like plug in like a generic player state or a generic actor, UObject, player controller that you know exists. And what this will essentially do is when you cast to that interface, if it has it, it will do this thing. But if it does not have it, it won't crash your game or anything. Not only that, casting to interfaces is a lot more performative than casting directly to a type, because you're not making a temporary cast of that class entirely. You're actually making a temporary cast of this, which is a lot smaller in terms of space that it actually takes up on the heap, if I remember correctly. You're going to go to Poland in the winter. Oh, that's what you meant. You're going to see snow for the first time ever. Oh, dude. Well, being someone that's in the northern part of America, snow sucks. It was cool when I was a kid, but as you get older, it's more of a pain in the ass than anything. Shoveling snow? Terrible. I don't recommend that to anybody. Alright, so we got interfaces, status effects. What's the other thing that I did? Gosh. I didn't do a script or anything for this stream. Kind of just wanted to wing it. As a person in the southern part of the Middle East, summer sucks hard. Oh, I could imagine. I would imagine that the temperature gets extremely high. Yeah, right now summer isn't too great here either, but it's definitely not as bad as it is there. Summers in like the northeast of America have been at least in the past like 5 or 6 years, it feels like the temperature is just increasing pretty fast. But I'm not a geologist, what the fuck is the word? Meteorologist, so it just might be a recency bias thing. I haven't really looked into it too much though. 80% humidity. My God. I don't even have to read the temperature, just that amount of humidity is crazy. That's like a really heavy air. It's terrible. Wow. What else? What else? Honestly, I don't remember where we left off. I think the last day I streamed, we were doing like refactoring, or that's when I started to do like the huge like overhaul of everything in the game. So it's really hard to remember exactly what point we left off with the game on that day. But all I know is the game runs a lot faster now. Everything's a lot more modulated, and doing any type of debugging or like maintenance is significantly easier. Hello, hello. Big changes, big changes. We have increased the performance of our game, what feels like tenfold. No way that's exaggerated. Honestly, I probably spent the last like 10 minutes just trying to remember all the shit that we actually did. I think I can show you something else. So we have status effects for the actual like player we're targeting, but for ourselves we actually have one too. So if I were to just put like debuff on our character, we actually have one here. Shows like the timer, the name of the debuff, everything, right at the top bar of our character. We also have one that shows the character is like rooted or slowed or anything like that too. So if I quickly just go to this, for like harder CC, like this, like slows, silences, stuns, roots, we have an overlay that actually comes up to display that. What else? I added in a tutorial like overlay that allows the player to just like highlight like abilities, and like it'll show like a description of the ability itself too. So like cooldown, damage, calculations based on the character's attributes, and cost or mana. I also added in something called overloading, which is when the character gets to 0 mana, they're actually not prevented from casting again. You have like a buffer below 0, I know it sounds weird, where you can go like -25 is the current limit that I put. But what it will allow the character to do is you can commit kind of like an extra ability. And when you do, you get a debuff on your character where you get slowed, and you also have your resilience reduced, meaning that you take more damage while you're overloaded. So you're able to spend this mana, cast abilities and everything, but you can see your bar drops down to the negatives here. But once you go back above it, you're fine. I want to add in something that reduces the amount of regen your character has when they're overloaded too, but more testing. I gotta see if that's like feasible, because right now, even like having a couple seconds in like the overloaded state just feels like horrible for just like the slow alone. So it's either I reduce the regen rate while you're overloaded, or I increase the player's movement speed just a little bit. But I think the whole idea behind it is I want to give the player options on like how much do they want to commit to a kill in game, and if they commit, there has to be some type of like give and take towards that, right? Like you're definitely taking more mana than you should when you're doing that final cast. So when you do that, there has to be something that is like a negative drawback from doing it to make you think about it. But if you know like it's the final hit and like, you know, they're going to die, then I'll give you that option to sign that contract in a sense. I haven't really added like any classes or anything. I've been working on like the design of classes. I think the next thing that's going to be implemented is the Arcanist class. So that will be more of like a utility and like defensive style class, I would imagine. Their auto attack is going to be unique in a sense that it's like an artillery auto attack. So every auto attack in the game right now is pretty linear. Like you shoot it, it goes straight, hit something, you know, done. The Arcanist is going to be something where they actually shoot like a kind of like an arcane missile, but it will actually go up instead of straight and then land at the designated zone. So it's going to be kind of like a mortar almost. I don't know how high the missile is going to go up before it starts to actually go towards its target, but we'll see. We're still in testing on that feature. Like, man, I can barely keep anything dry. Yeah, that sounds terrible. I can't imagine with that amount of humidity that that would be fun. Oh yeah, game modes. I finally added the feature that you can actually select what game mode you go to and what loads into the game. That was actually a lot more straightforward than I thought it was going to be. I was like dreading looking into how you do server travel like that, but it's really not bad at all. So to actually select a map that you want to go to and have it load in, there's actually a really neat feature with Unreal Engine to where you can actually do that. I believe it's in project settings. I think it's like under maps. What you're able to do essentially is rename, or no, game modes. Yeah, here it is. So you can have something called game mode class alias. And what you do is you actually set like an F name here, I believe, and you actually select the blueprint that you want associated with this. And what this will allow you to do is inside your code, or in blueprints, I would assume, you can use that name, and when you travel to a map, you can kind of plug that name in here. So for instance, like this would be !game arena. This will, during runtime, change the game mode that the map has. So this actually makes it so you can pretty much use any game mode on any map that you want, which is what I wanted. I looked at doing this before, and I guess the tutorial that I watched was pretty outdated because holy shit, it was not that easy. But yeah, thank God for that alias thing. That makes it so much easier just to connect all of this logic up to what we need. It's basically being like Soyvade alive. Can I tell you something dark? It will most likely haunt me for life. I don't know if I want to hear that. I'm gonna be honest with you, that does not sound like something I would want to hear. Like, saying, can I tell you something dark, right? Like, you gotta sell me on it, right? And then you saying, it will haunt me, it will most likely haunt me for my life. I don't know if I'm sold. I don't know if I want to buy. You'll keep me innocent. That sold. That sounds good to me. I would like to be not informed on whatever that is. Innocent sounds good. Yeah, I think over the next couple streams, we're just going to be like redoing how our abilities work, moving all this data off of here. Oh, that actually just reminded me of another thing that we did. Abilities themselves. So we made a pretty big change here. We now have cooldowns and costs that we can change on the fly. So we kind of revamped this to make it a lot more dynamic. So all of the cooldowns and costs I moved over to our flash tree data table. So if we go into Druid here, we have all this information at the bottom that we can change. We now have spell cooldown and spell cost. I could change this to anything or any amount, and I don't have to go into my blueprint for my ability and change like all this shit here, or change like the cooldown gameplay effect class or the cost gameplay effect class. Like honestly, it's so much work to go in here and change all this shit every time and make like 30 of these. So just doing that change alone saved so much time, because now being able to change an ability's cost and cooldown in like one click and have it be centralized here has been a fucking blessing. So I guess like the TLDR of today is, for the love of God, move everything over to a data table or data asset ASAP in your project. Just having centralized data like this significantly, I can't understate this, significantly speeds up the amount that you're able to produce in the amount of time that you have. There's one thing I want to tell you. From last stream, carding has grown on me a lot. From a fun activity to a part of my personality. Carding, is that thing where you were... No. When you say karting, what do you mean? Like go-karting? Because there's two different meanings to what that could be. I don't think you mean go-karting, but I'm all ears. What else? What else? I keep saying like that's it, I can't remember more, and then like I'll just get hit with something to show. Oh yeah, I can show you where we put the curve tables at for scaling secondary attributes and everything, because that is also pretty important. Man, my jaw hurts from talking so much. Yeah, so I've been basically taking advantage of this attribute curve right here. So when you're actually doing anything with attributes at all, I'm using this attribute-based magnitude calculation type. And what you can do is you can actually set this attribute to scale off of a curve table. So what this is basically looking at is my current character's level attribute, right? And it will move or change this number here based on the level my character has. And you can do this with anything. Like, don't look at this as like a hard set on what you can really do with attributes. Attributes are just names for a value. So when you're looking at this, you can have any value be anything based off of another one. And this is really powerful when doing larger scale designs for your game. But yeah, the gameplay ability system, holy fuck is it complicated, but my god is it powerful. Let's see here, basically in this place I went go-karting and it was really fun. It's grown on me a lot. Like I went to it before stream like twice, but grill me. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to love doing go-karts and everything. But here in the US, I don't know what it's like there. It's actually like pretty fucking expensive. Thank you for the follow. It actually doesn't tell me who followed, which is weird. But I'm a washed up streamer, so it only makes sense. What else? What else? Honestly, like, it's just all optimization shit and just centralizing everything. There's a lot of bugs I need to fix. I don't know if I'm going to fix all those on stream. I think today's stream, what I wanted to do more than anything was kind of show where the current state of the game is. After losing data and then pretty much recovering everything, there are some bugs that still exist because I'm using files that are a little bit outdated, just so I could get my project back up and running. So I have to kind of go back and comb through a lot of the older shit, like that round end thing, where like our character just can't move after the first round completes. I fixed that bug like 30 days ago or something, but now it's back. So I just got to go back through and kind of fix that stuff up. But I do want to stream tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll actually have a plan on what to do. This was kind of like last minute. Last night I kind of just said that I was going to stream today, more so just to give everything or everybody an update. Also show that the project isn't dead. I've been working on it every day for 10 hours plus a day, easy. I think I also applied for publishing as well and got rejected on that, but that's okay. Don't take rejection as something that means that your game is like dog shit, right? Just take it as something where like you can improve on it. I know my game isn't in like an amazing state, but oh man, from the first build that I still have, by the way, from like early or like late December to now, the game is like 10 times fucking better. And as long as like you just keep progressing, or I keep progressing and just improving different aspects of the game, eventually it will get to that point where it's good enough for that. But yeah. Here it costs about the same as like 8 Colgate average toothpaste, the green ones. How much does toothpaste cost? Hold on. Alright. This is so off topic, but I'll entertain this. Okay. The green ones. This has a green leaf on it, so we'll go with that. I can't show this on stream because it actually shows my address on Google now, so thanks for that, Google. So $5 is how much that costs. So 8 of those, that's 40 bucks. Holy fuck, that's a lot of money. That's like a third of my grocery bill. So when you say like, when you say 8 Colgate toothpaste, like what, how much do they cost in your country? You know, because there's a difference there in price, I would assume, right? Go-karting for 20 minutes. Wow, they even let you ride longer there too. Shit, when I did it, you'd be lucky if you got like 10 minutes. This is so off topic. I'm trying to think of like what else I could even like tell you guys about. in terms of like what I changed, but it's just so hard. Oh, this is another thing actually. Fuck using sockets. I'm definitely getting rid of this. These virtual sockets absolutely suck. Reason being is they can be based off of like animations and like the root of your character's model. So when you're doing client-side prediction for projectiles especially, right? On the client, when you shoot a projectile with prediction and you're using a socket, your character's like arm or whatever it's using to get the location for the projectile may be slightly different than what the server's is. And when that happens, you get a mismatch. So on your screen, it looks like the projectile hit its location, but on the server says, no, you actually missed. And what does that do? That just pisses people the fuck off. It just makes people really angry when they play your game. So, fuck sockets. We're going to move it over to a different style. You could tell this is old code because I'm casting directly to the character type, which is not something I do anymore. So, obviously, there's still a lot of shit that I have to change in my project. Hi, I've been learning blueprints for 1 month. Do you think using C++ is better than blueprint? For some things, yeah. Blueprints is not a bad thing to use. I think learning blueprints first really helps you develop the thought process on how to write code. If I were to recommend anything, I would just start with very simple like C++ code, but still mainly use blueprints, and then slowly over time, the more classes that you can actually code, you can just start moving stuff over to C++ entirely. But long story short, blueprints are still totally feasible. It's not a bad thing to use blueprints at all. So Googling says it's $32 per 20 minutes of go-karting. Holy fuck, that's so much. That's so much money. In the economy now. God damn. Yeah, this whole thing's gonna get changed. Same with the spells. This whole clusterfuck. Like, just to give you an idea of how this is gonna look over the next like week or two, I'm gonna go into my little friend here, spell data, grab you, and bam. Actually, we are not making this U property. We don't care about that. All this will just be commented out and gone. Like so. But yeah, I want to centralize data. Having all this on blueprints and having to open up every single one to do this is just so annoying. Move everything to data tables and data assets. I beg you. 120. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. It's cheap for what it is. Maybe it's inflation. It more than likely is. Inflation's pretty bad. A lot of things are pretty bad. But yeah, it is what it is. Shit, I think the one thing I'm more pissed about than anything else is the cost of groceries going up by like nearly 200% over the past like 5 years. I remember, this is again off topic, but I remember going to the grocery store, spending like 90 bucks, and like that was like my bill, that's it. Nowadays, shit's like $180, but I'm getting the same amount of food, and it's not like I got a 200% pay increase or anything, you know? What type of game am I making? It is a first-person MOBA where you select different classes that your character has, and whatever class you select, you get the abilities of that class. So right now, my character has 3 classes, Druid, Pyromancer, and Tempest. So I'm able to change between the different classes and use their abilities. Groceries for my family cost the same as like 4 karting trips. $80? Yeah, it used to be $80 here, but not anymore, fortunately. Oh, damn. Oh, this actually is another huge thing. And I didn't think about this before, but this is actually a pretty big change. Different animation blueprints depending on if you are a local player or like a simulated proxy. One thing you'll notice on this client, right, is their like running animation and everything, or like their casting animation. If you look closely, you'll see the head movement, which is where our camera is actually attached to, because we're a true first-person game. See that like head movement of like bobbling and like going forward, back, and everything? What I did was I actually made the game check to see if we are a local or simulated player. And what it will do is it'll change the animation that our character uses depending on that. So we're still true first person, but you notice that our head isn't moving at all when we're shooting, right? Before, that shit would just like go crazy, and it was actually throwing off the aim of the character just by like a little bit, enough to just be annoying. But now the only time that your like head like moves when you're aiming is actually when you're running at this point, but it's very minimal. And all I'm doing to do that is on the character itself, I'm checking to see if we are the local character or not. I think I have a parameter or a variable down here for it. Yeah. So I have this here, and inside here, possessed by, just a quick note, possessed by is only called on the server. So when this is called, if there's a controller here, I set it right there. Or no, not possessed by is only called on the server. Sorry, that's misinformation. I set if we're the local controller here. And then there's actually another spot as well for the server specifically. Ah, here. So I called in the on rep as well. This is very important because other players, when they join in, they will call this on rep and they'll set this local variable on the actual character itself. Not their character, but everybody else's, right? Because every single client that you have in a game has to load in all the rest of the characters in the game. That means all the other characters have variables that need to be set. They have functions that need to be called. So we're just making sure that we're setting this to false when they load in on our machine, right? So they load in the correct character animation instance. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. MOBA games are usually like third person or top down, but I was like, I wonder if I can make something that's first person that is similar. I can see why they don't make it first person though, and the biggest reason why they don't make it first person that I have found so far during development is this right here. when we load in, I'll show you. So, with a top-down or a third-person game, you have a better view angle, right? Like, your character is obviously third person. So when they're like looking to place an ability down on the ground, they don't have like a low to the ground view to where you can't get the angle to set an ability. So like the further I aim this ability outward, right, the less space I have to accurately put this onto the ground. So as I move out, it scales up in how far this goes. That means if I was across the map here and I tried to hit my character, placing this down on the ground when he's like right there, easy, I can hit that. When you're all the way out here in first person, you don't have that huge angle to hit from, right? It's a lot harder. Look how small he is, right? The way I solved it, or like the solution I came up with, is actually shown here. I'm not directly placing this ability. I'm using a projectile. And what this allows you to do is you can actually arc the ability up. So as you move further out, you're not losing screen space. You're actually able to just move the mouse up, and as it actually moves up, the projectile will just move across the ground. Pretty much at the same pace it was before. If it is moving faster, it's just like by like a little bit. But it allows for way more accurate ability placement. Oh, I didn't read yet. There's a difference. I was explaining like the idea behind, or like the concept behind it, and like the solution towards it, or the problem. Move to Europe, their inflation. See, you come up with like the move ideas, and in concept, yes. Or like in theory, yes. In reality, no. There's no way that I could possibly do that. %2 tax if I don't include sales tax. Still, that is not something that is possible. Not something that I can do currently. Oh boy. I think that's it. Animations, performance optimization, data centralization, interfaces, function libraries. I've rewritten probably about 30,000 lines of code in the past 60 days. Something crazy like that, I know. But yeah, dude, this is all I do like every day. I think like 10, 12 hours a day. I'm just on here programming. And I will say it's a lot more efficient to program off stream. Mainly because I can use like more than one monitor to kind of show what I'm doing. And I can kind of stay locked in and focused on everything at hand. The downside is I don't get to like thoroughly explain like all the concepts to you guys as I'm doing it in real time, which kind of sucks. And unfortunately, like right now, I'm kind of just showing the result of doing it all. But I think the next stream that I do, I'd much rather build something and kind of show you the process that I take when I'm adding new features into the game. And I think the problem that we're going to tackle is the mastery system. We'll probably build that or rebuild that from scratch. Right now it's kind of a shell of its former self, unfortunately. But the way I had it set up previously was just like so utterly fucking bad. I think I kept shit on the game instance in a multiplayer game, which is just fucking dumb. So yeah, we're gonna look into that. We're gonna make sure all the data is replicated too. I think another thing that I did was add like inventory. But I did that like way back with the attribute thing. I just added in like a quick menu so you could see in game what your stats were. So you could see like what your current health is, your regen rates, mana, damage mitigation, like all that stuff. Oh, you should not be able to cast while you have this open. Whoops. My solo dev? Yes, sir. I most certainly am. So this is only kind of like a small window of what this is going to be. To the right of this, I'm actually going to have the character where you can equip your equipment, obviously, and do like inventory management. But I made this in probably about a day. I don't know if you guys ever played a game called New World, but I played that religiously for like years. And one thing I was like so confused on why they just never added was the simplest fucking feature of being able to see what your secondary attributes were when you had equipment on. Maybe, I guess they just went off of a pure scripting system or something. I don't know. They didn't have access to this information with that type of like API. But it makes no logical sense why they couldn't just like add this in if the numbers were already there behind the scenes. I mean, yeah, I just don't get it. This took me probably about 3 hours to make. And I had to modify like maybe 5 different things to do it. But they're a AAA studio, so I've heard that stuff moves at a slower rate there in terms of getting stuff greenlit. Is that it? Is that everything that I did? Moved everything off the character. We already talked about that. I made components for pretty much every aspect of what my character should do. So I grouped functionality into actor components. So I can just like add and take them off as needed. Changed up how abilities are cast. I already showed that off with like the HUD and everything. Oh, I removed upgrading from the game. You no longer have to like upgrade your current selected class to have access to the abilities. I just made it so you have access to everything in the beginning. And I added the mana system as compensation for that. It just makes so much more fucking sense, logically. To have access to everything. Being gate kept to 3 abilities per level was just terrible. It felt horrible. Well, you know what? I want to tell you, but I also don't want to. Hey, I'm fine if you don't tell me. If it's that thing about you were like talking about before about something dark, I probably would just not say it. If that's what you're fighting. I think that is pretty much it. I say that, I've probably said that about 30 times now. But yeah, function libraries. These are fucking great. What's up? Oh, interface is also fucking great. I have like 30 of these now. Some of them are pretty bad, actually. I don't even use any functionality on some of these, as you can see. Like the upgrade one, I gutted and took all this stuff out because this is going to get deleted. But these are super helpful. I have no idea what that means, my friend. One of the few Polish sentences I can say. I can't say any, so you're better than I am. I think I'll call it here for today. I didn't really have anything planned to show on stream. I just got my game to recompile after the data loss this past week, so I just wanted to give an update on everything because I said I would do it this weekend but didn't. It means I eat apple. Yeah, there you go. I probably will be back tomorrow with an actual plan on what to show, and we'll get something actually built. I think just based off what I'm seeing here in terms of like bugs that I found on stream, it's more than likely going to be our talent system for our abilities that we're going to be constructing. But if anything changes, I'll have a description in the beginning of the stream of what we're going to be working on for that day. And we'll go through and get it constructed. You'll be able to see how we get there. But yeah, for today, I'm probably going to call it. I know it was a pretty short stream, but I'm just getting back into the swing of things now after a massive like refactoring of the whole code base over the past like 2 months. But yeah, with that being said, wherever you are, have a great morning, evening, afternoon, or night. And till tomorrow, peace. I know you're sad. It's okay. I'll be back though. Don't worry. Tomorrow, 11:30 Eastern. All right, bye.